The restaurant was quiet, except for the low hum of jazz playing somewhere near the bar. Outside, the city lights reflected off wet streets, shimmering like broken glass after a storm. Ethan sat at a table for two. He had been there for 35 minutes. The waiter had refilled his glass of water twice. He pretended to scroll through his phone, but his reflection in the screen only reminded him how empty this moment felt. He wasn't supposed to be here. His sister had signed him up for a blind date. She said he needed to move on. He didn't argue. It was easier than explaining that he hadn't truly lived since his fiancée, Claire, died 2 years ago in a car crash. He took another sip of water, glancing toward the entrance again. The door swung open. A couple walked in laughing, then a family. Not her. Not the woman who was supposed to meet him. He sighed, forcing a smile at the waiter who passed by. "Everything all right, sir?" "Yeah," Ethan lied. "Just waiting." The minutes dragged on. The longer he sat there, the heavier the silence became. He thought about leaving, maybe text his sister that it went fine. But then something unexpected happened. From the corner of the room, a soft voice broke through the music. "Excuse me, mister?" Ethan turned. A little girl stood beside his table, maybe 6 or 7 years old, wearing a small yellow dress and her hair in neat little braids. Her dark brown eyes were wide, curious, and kind. She was holding a small stuffed bunny that looked as tired as he felt. "Yes," he said gently. The girl shifted nervously, gripping her toy. "My mommy's sorry she's late. She told me to come tell you. She's parking the car." Ethan blinked, surprised. "Oh," he said softly, sitting up. "You must be waiting with her?" She nodded proudly. "Uh-huh. She said her name's Angela. She said she don't like people waitin'." Angela. The name his sister had mentioned. Ethan smiled awkwardly, his chest easing for the first time that night. "Well," he said, "thank you for the message, Miss—" "Kayla," she said quickly. "I'm Kayla." "Nice to meet you, Kayla." She giggled, her small teeth flashing. "You look nervous." Ethan chuckled, scratching the back of his neck. "I guess I am." "Don't be," Kayla said wisely. "Mommy says nerves just mean you care." He laughed at that, a real laugh, one that echoed faintly in the quiet restaurant. A few moments later, a woman entered through the door. Ethan's gaze followed instinctively. She was dressed in a simple black coat, her curls slightly damp from the rain. Her skin glowed warm under the dim lights, and there was a look in her eyes, tired but sincere. Angela. She looked around until she saw Kayla talking to Ethan. A small smile crossed her lips. "Kayla, sweetheart," she said softly as she walked over. "You found him." Kayla beamed. "Told you I could." Angela reached the table, and Ethan stood to greet her. "I'm so sorry," she said quickly. "The traffic." And then she dropped her toy under the seat. "I promise I'm not usually this late." Ethan waved it off, smiling. "It's fine. I was just enjoying the jazz." Angela exhaled, visibly relieved. Kayla tugged at her mom's coat. "Can I sit with you, Mommy?" Angela hesitated, then looked at Ethan apologetically. "Do you mind? My babysitter canceled last minute." "Not at all. I'd be honored." They all sat down together. The waiter returned with menus, giving them a curious glance. "Family table?" he asked politely. Angela smiled awkwardly. "Not exactly." Kayla grinned. "It's a blind date," she announced proudly. The waiter chuckled and nodded. "Then I'll make sure it's a good one." Angela's cheeks flushed. "Kayla." "What?" Kayla shrugged. That's what she said." Ethan laughed again, this time more freely. There was something about the child's innocence that melted away the stiffness between them. As they began talking, Ethan noticed small things about Angela. The way she listened, really listened. The quiet strength in her eyes when she talked about being a nurse. How every few minutes she'd glance at Kayla with silent love. She told him about how she raised her daughter alone after Kayla's father left. He wasn't ready to be a dad. Ethan didn't push for details. He didn't need to. There was pain beneath her calm, the same kind he knew too well. And when she asked about him, he hesitated but then spoke. He told her about Claire, about how she was his world, about how one morning she kissed him goodbye and never came home. Angela's expression softened. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. Ethan nodded. "It's okay. I guess I'm still learning how to be someone without her." The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable. It was human. Then Kayla looked up, breaking it with perfect timing. "Mommy says love don't die. It just hides till it's ready again." Angela froze, her eyes widening slightly. "Kayla." But Ethan smiled faintly. "That's really beautiful." Kayla shrugged, nibbling on her fries. "It's true." The evening went on like that. Laughter between stories, silence between memories. By the time dessert came, Ethan felt something he hadn't in years. Warmth. Not romance, not yet, but connection. Real, quiet connection. When they finally stood to leave, Angela apologized again for the chaos, for Kayla's chatter, for everything. Ethan shook his head. "Don't," he said softly. "It was the best night I've had in a long time." Angela smiled, a little sadly. "Maybe we both needed a night like this." Kayla hugged Ethan's leg before they left. "Bye, Mr. Ethan," she said brightly. "Bye, Kayla." And just before they walked out the door, Angela turned back. "Thank you for being kind." Ethan watched them disappear into the rainy night, a mother holding her daughter's hand under a flickering streetlight. He didn't know then that this night, this ordinary, accidental meeting, would soon lead him back into love and heartbreak. Because sometimes fate doesn't just bring people together. It tests how long they can hold on before losing each other again.
The next few weeks unfolded like a quiet sunrise. It started with a simple message. "Angela, thank you again for last night. Kayla won't stop talking about you." Ethan smiled at his phone longer than he meant to. Then he replied, "You two made my night better than I deserved." And just like that, something began. Slow, hesitant, but real. They started meeting often, sometimes for coffee near the hospital where Angela worked the night shift, sometimes at the park where Kayla liked to chase pigeons with her stuffed bunny, Mr. Hop. Every time Ethan saw Angela, he felt the walls around his heart loosen just a little. She had that effect, not loud, not forced, just a quiet warmth that filled the spaces where grief used to echo. One Saturday they met at a small lake outside the city. Kayla ran ahead with her bunny, leaving ripples in the air like laughter. Ethan and Angela walked side by side, watching her. "She's full of energy," Ethan said. Angela smiled softly. "She's my reason. Without her, I don't think I'd have made it this far." Ethan glanced at her. "You've been through a lot, haven't you?" She didn't answer immediately. The breeze moved through her curls. She said, "I made mistakes. Loved someone who wasn't ready to love me back. When he left, I promised Kayla I'd be enough. I didn't always succeed, but I tried." Ethan stopped walking. "You are enough." Angela looked at him, her eyes shimmering. "You don't know me that well." "Maybe not, but I can tell when someone fights every day just to keep life moving forward." Angela smiled faintly. "And you? Are you moving forward?" He hesitated, then nodded. "I think I'm trying." That day, when Kayla ran back and hugged him goodbye, Ethan realized something had changed. He wasn't just part of their afternoon anymore. He was becoming part of their lives. Days turned into weeks. Dinners became routine. Laughter became natural. And for the first time in 2 years, Ethan found himself looking forward to mornings. He'd wake to a message from Angela. Angela says, "Kayla says hi, and that Mr. Hop misses you." "Ethan, tell him I miss him too, and maybe his owner a little more." She replied with a laughing emoji, her first one ever. One evening, Ethan invited them both to his place for dinner. He'd cooked pasta, or at least tried to. Kayla ran through the living room with excitement. "You have a fireplace! Mommy, he has a fireplace!" Angela laughed. "Don't touch anything, Kayla." Ethan smiled nervously. "Sorry, it's not fancy, but—" Angela shook her head. "It's perfect." After dinner, they sat on the couch, the fire flickering softly. Kayla had fallen asleep between them, her head resting on Ethan's arm. Angela looked at her daughter, then at Ethan. "You're good with her." "She's easy to love," he said quietly. For a moment, neither spoke. The only sound was the gentle crackling of the fire. Then Angela said something unexpected. "Do you ever feel guilty for being happy again?" Ethan froze, staring at the flames. "Every day." She nodded slowly. "Me too." They sat in that shared silence, two broken hearts learning to breathe again. When Angela finally stood to leave, Ethan walked them to the door. Kayla sleepily wrapped her arms around him. "Good night, Mr. Ethan." "Good night, sweetheart." Angela met his gaze. There was something in her eyes, a question, maybe even fear. But before he could ask, she whispered, "Thank you for giving us peace." Then she was gone. Weeks passed. Ethan felt lighter, more alive. He caught himself smiling for no reason, humming songs Claire used to love, but now they didn't hurt as much. One rainy afternoon, Angela called him from the hospital. Her voice sounded distant. "Ethan, can you pick up Kayla? I'm stuck at work. They need me for an emergency shift." "Of course," he said without hesitation. When he arrived at the school, Kayla ran into his arms. "Mr. Ethan, Mommy says you're my hero today." He laughed. "Your mommy gives me too much credit." They spent the evening building blanket forts and watching cartoons. For hours, the apartment was filled with laughter. Not echoes of loss, but life. Later, when he tucked her into bed, Kayla looked up at him and whispered something that hit deeper than he expected. "Mr. Ethan, do you love my mommy?" He blinked, caught off guard. "Why would you ask that?" She smiled sleepily. "Because she loves you. I can tell." Ethan froze. He wanted to deny it, to stay safe behind his grief, but when he looked at the small girl curled under the blanket, he couldn't lie. "Maybe I do," he said softly. "Maybe I really do." Kayla grinned. "Good, 'cause she's scared, and people don't stay long." The words sank deep. He sat beside her for a long time after she fell asleep, thinking about what she said. Later that night, Angela arrived. Her eyes were tired, her scrubs damp from rain. "She fell asleep?" Ethan said. "Like a rock?" Angela smiled weakly. "She's been through a lot, too. I try to protect her from everything, but—" She paused, her voice trembling. "Sometimes life doesn't let you—" Ethan stepped closer. "You've done everything you could." Angela looked up at him, tears gathering in her eyes. "You don't understand, Ethan. There are things you don't know about me." He frowned. "Then tell me." She hesitated.
Her hands shook slightly as she took off her hospital ID badge. "There's something I need to say, but not tonight." "Angela!" She placed a trembling hand on his chest. "Please, just give me one more day. Tomorrow, after my shift, I'll tell you everything." Ethan nodded slowly, sensing the weight behind her words. "Okay." She gave a small, sad smile. "Thank you for trusting me." And then, for the first time, she leaned in and kissed him. It wasn't rushed or desperate. It was fragile, the kind of kiss people share when they're afraid it might be their last chance. When she pulled away, she whispered, "Good night, Ethan." He watched her walk down the hallway, her reflection fading in the glass door. Something in his chest ached, not from pain, but from the strange, beautiful fear of falling again. He didn't know it yet, but that night would be the last time he saw her alive. The next morning, sunlight broke through the blinds, painting stripes across Ethan's living room floor. Kayla was still asleep on the couch, her small hand clutching Mr. Hop, the worn-out bunny. Ethan smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her forehead. She looked peaceful, too peaceful to wake just yet. He made breakfast, humming quietly, still replaying Angela's kiss in his mind. It had felt different, final. When his phone buzzed, he expected it to be her, but it wasn't. Unknown number. "Mr. Ethan, this is Mercy General Hospital. Are you related to Nurse Angela Walker?" His heart skipped. "No, but he said, his voice cracking. "I know her. Is she okay?" There was a pause. "I'm sorry," the nurse said softly. "She was in an accident this morning. She didn't make it." The room fell silent. His hand went numb. The phone slipped from his fingers, landing on the table with a soft thud. He couldn't move, couldn't think. The words repeated in his head like a cruel echo. "She didn't make it. She didn't make it." Then he heard a small voice behind him. "Mr. Ethan, why are you crying?" Kayla stood there, rubbing her eyes, still holding her bunny. He froze. How do you tell a child that her world is gone? He knelt down, his voice shaking. "Sweetheart, your mommy, she got hurt this morning." Caleb blinked, not understanding. "Is she at the hospital?" Ethan swallowed hard. She's gone, Kayla." Silence. Then her little hands gripped the toy tighter. "No! Mommy promised she'd come back!" He reached out, but she backed away. "You're lying!" she screamed, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Mommy said people don't leave forever!" Ethan tried to hold her, but she broke free, collapsing to the floor, sobbing into her bunny. And for the first time since Claire's death, Ethan wept uncontrollably, not for himself this time, but for the little girl who had just lost her whole world. The days that followed were a blur of paperwork, silence, and grief. Angela's funeral was small, just hospital staff, a few neighbors, and Ethan. Kayla sat beside him in a tiny black dress, clutching her stuffed bunny so tight it looked painful. When it was over, Ethan stayed until everyone left. He traced his fingers along Angela's name engraved in the polished wood of the coffin. "I wasn't supposed to lose you too," he whispered. A soft hand slipped into his hand. "Kayla." She said, "Mommy's not gone. She said love don't die. Remember?" Ethan closed his eyes, tears streaming silently down his face. After the funeral, child services came. The woman from the agency sat across from Ethan in his living room, a folder open on her lap. "Mr. Bennett, you've been caring for Kayla since her mother's death. Do you have any legal guardianship paperwork?" "No," he said, shaking his head. "Angela was supposed to tell me something the next day. I think it had to do with that." The woman nodded. "We found something in her apartment." She handed him a sealed envelope with his name written in Angela's handwriting. Ethan's heart pounded as he opened it. Inside was a short letter.
Ethan, if you're reading this, it means I couldn't tell you in person. There's something you need to know. When I said there were things about me you didn't know, I meant this. I've been sick for a long time. I didn't tell anyone, not even my coworkers. I didn't want pity. I just wanted normal days. A few more smiles for Kayla. A few more moments where I could feel alive again. You gave me that, Ethan. You gave us peace. There's one more truth. Kayla has no one else. Her father disappeared years ago. My parents passed before she was born. If you can, please, don't let her end up with strangers. You once told me you were learning to live again. Maybe Kayla can help you finish that lesson. Take care of her. And when you look at her, remember that she's everything good I ever did. Angela. By the time he finished reading, Ethan couldn't see through his tears. He folded the letter, holding it to his chest. Then he looked over at Kayla, who was sitting quietly on the couch, swinging her legs. She looked up, eyes red and tired. What did Mommy say? He walked over, kneeling in front of her. She said, "You're everything good she ever did." Kayla's lip trembled. Then who's going to take care of me now? Ethan's voice broke. I am. She looked at him uncertain. Forever? He nodded. Forever. And for the first time since Angela's death, Kayla's tiny arms wrapped around his neck. Okay, she whispered. Then I'm not scared anymore. Weeks passed. Life became a quiet rhythm. Breakfasts before school, bedtime stories, drawings taped to the fridge. Sometimes Ethan would catch himself smiling at something Kayla said and feel that ache again. The ache of missing Angela, but also the strange healing warmth she left behind. One night as he tucked her in, Kayla asked softly, "Do you think Mommy can see us?" Ethan nodded. He thinks she never stopped watching. Then she knows I'm okay? She does, he said, his voice trembling. And she's proud of you. Kayla smiled faintly. Then she's proud of you too. Ethan kissed her forehead. Good night, sweetheart. A few months later, spring arrived. The city park bloomed with life again, the same place where Angela once told Ethan about her past. He sat on the same bench, Kayla beside him with her bunny. Mr. Ethan, yes? I think Mommy sent us to you. Ethan smiled gently. Maybe she did. Kayla grinned. Then I'm going to keep you forever. He laughed through the tears threatening to spill. Deal! The wind moved through the trees, carrying the scent of rain and flowers. And for a moment, he could almost feel her there. Angela, standing just beyond the sunlight, smiling at them. Ethan whispered into the breeze, "You kept your promise. You didn't let love die." That night, when Ethan tucked Kayla into bed, she handed him her stuffed bunny. Mr. Ethan, yes? Mommy said love hides till it's ready again, right? He nodded softly. Then I think we found it. Ethan felt his chest tighten as tears blurred his vision. Yeah, Kayla, we did. He turned off the light, standing by the doorway, watching her drift into sleep. And in that quiet room, filled with the echoes of a love that had found new life in loss, Ethan finally understood what Angela had meant. That some people come into your life not to stay forever, but to leave you someone worth living for.